Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the reigner of ruffians, the honorary space daddy, Jossix, the saucy sailor, Volt Shot Vandal, and the touch, the power, Josh Finney.
I love the last one so much. Anyone who's ever talked to me should know by now how much I love the 1980s Transformers movie. And you simply could not be a late 80s, early 90s child without being traumatized by the death of Optimus Prime.
Yeah, it's true.
You simply couldn't be. I promised that I would find this last week, and I would go through my boxes and find this. This is mainly for nerd generalists, but I love the Transformers movie so much that I have a Rodimus Prime that I keep on my desk at all times.
Nice.
That is a recreation of like the OG vintage toys from the 80s.
Oh, wow, nice.
I have this, and I have a more modern Optimus Prime from the mid 90s.
Nice.
Probably late 90s, like immediately post Beast Wars.
Nice. I have a couple Transformers, like really nice ones. There was this line, like probably right after the third movie came out, but they were based on G1 characters, but they were like real cars. Like Optimus Prime is like a Dodge Ram, and
yeah, I have one of those that's like a Subaru.
Yeah, it's I think it's Silver Streak, might be the silver. Anyways,
No, I didn't get mine when you did. I got mine a few years before that, actually.
Oh,
I got
really?
them before that. I got them before the first Michael Bay movie. Yeah.
So I have the Optimus Prime. I have the San Diego Comic-Con Nemesis Prime, which is just the black Optimus. Super cool.
Yeah.
And still. I have a Rodimus Prime, which is a Ford GTO.
So Hot Rod was always my favorite as a kid. Like even watching OG Transformers, I loved Hot Rod. And I love, obviously, Hot Rod's introduced. He becomes Rodimus. And that's like the era Transformers I really like. I like him and the classic Dinobots. Yeah. Grimlock was great. If you don't like OG Grimlock, we can't be friends.
I have a Grimlock as well.
I had a Unicron, the very first Unicron they ever made in like 2002, 2003. I got it for Christmas. So super into Transformers when I was like 10 years old. And I got Unicron for Christmas. It was like one of those like Hail Mary things. And it was like, oh, well, your parents are divorced. And, my mom was like in this weird phase of like, I don't want to acknowledge that you're my child, but I want to like show up your dad at the same time. So my other grandma sent this like gigantic package to the house, and I was like, what the heck is this? I'm opening it up, and I got fucking Unicron.
Nice.
My dad was just like, God damn
it. That's awesome.
I don't think I have Unicron anymore because it took up like a whole plastic tub on its own. But I had that and like all my Transformers packed away for so long. I know a lot of them were out of the box. Like when things are out of the box, you don't get as much money, but I sold a lot of them off for money. Yeah. When I was like 18, 19 years old, something like that. I really hope that somewhere buried deep in the bowels of my storage unit that I still have Unicron in one of those tubs. Like I kept all my 80s and 90s Star Wars toys. But I don't think that I kept all the Transformers, unfortunately.
Nice.
So that was the deviation into Josh's toy collection this week.
No, that's fair. No, you know what? That's fair. But Josh, two things before we get into this massive TWAB and video games. First off, we are running the contest. That's why you heard all those new nicknames today.
Yes.
These are all Discord member choices, Josh. I need you to pick your favorite. I mean, I think I know which one you're going to pick, but
so I feel like I have to like go through a process because I've got it narrowed down to two that I like.
Do you want to reveal it at the end of the show?
I want to reveal it now because I want to debate on it in my mind throughout the show. I'll give my answer at the end, but the two that are in my front running right now are the Volt Shot Vandal because I really fucking love Volt Shot. You don't know that about me. I love Volt Shot this season. That's like my favorite new perk. And I mean, the touch, the power. Like, come on, man. Come on. We just spent 5 minutes talking about my Transformers collection.
We did.
I feel like those two have to be the ones.
Okay. I'm not gonna reveal who said those, but I mean, I know who said them. But
That's fair. That's fair.
But anyways, Josh, there one more thing before we get started. We have to give a special shout out to one of our beloved members, Trevor. You know,
Yes.
our friend Trevor. He's being deployed this weekend.
Yes.
So, you know, we want to give a special shout out to you. Be safe. Thank you for doing what you do so we can do what we do. And you know, be safe, come home safe, and there'll be some Destiny, some raiding waiting for you. We played this weekend together, or this past weekend, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Did a little King's Fall together. So yeah, Trevor, be safe. World Jukebox in our Discord.
World Jukebox. Yeah, go give a shout out to Trevor in the Discord. We were gonna see if we could possibly make a raid happen this week, but pretty busy with the last couple days that he's gonna be stateside coming up, and he said that any availability will be determinant on what the situation looks like when he gets deployed, like internet wise. But yeah, whenever you're free, man, there is a permanent spot in the fire team.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for what you do, and I know that we poke fun at you a lot on the show, but thank you so much for what you do, and for saying that you're still going to tune in on Friday mornings to hear how my week has been. That made me chuckle a little bit. If we can provide any sort of distraction, not just to Trevor, but to anybody, that puts a genuine smile on my face. So
yeah, we wouldn't do this without you guys, obviously.
No.
So I mean, I think besides starting the show, Josh, I think this Discord has been one of the best things we've decided to do. And it's been fun.
I would say it's the best thing since starting the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of really great discussions, some of which I'm going to bring up today. We were talking about one particular nerf in the TWAB and about some of the communication from Bungie the last couple of days. Having some really, really good discussions in there.
Also,
lots of different opinions.
Yeah. Also, Josh, I have a special request from A1 Johnny.
Oh no!
I am supposed to rub it in your face that I got Touch of Malice this past weekend.
It doesn't bother me. Congratulations! I'm happy you got it. If he got it, it would bother me, but I'm happy you got it. Fuck that guy.
I even bought the ornament. Made it look all pretty.
As one does.
Yeah. Very, very excited. And then now we're gonna go try to do a div run for a bunch of people this weekend. It's a very raid heavy weekend for me this weekend.
It's a pretty raid heavy. It's been a raid heavy season for us, which is funny. I've always wanted to do like a ton of raids back to back, and I'm now at the point where I'm like, man, I'm ready to just like put my controller down for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Festival of the Lost is coming up. Excited to see some of those details. I imagine we're going to get some of them next week, because it's supposed to kick off on the 18th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, next week we should be getting some of the details on Festival of the Lost. Maybe seeing the final renders of the armor. Get a little teaser trailer going. I hope it's just more ghost stories from Glint, and I hope that Finch is helping him with them this time. I want Glint and Finch to be doing them together. That'd be
oh my gosh, that'd be so fun.
That'd be fun. Really, really fun. Excited for that. Of course, Corey mentioned at the top of the show the contest that we are running, which is to determine my new nickname. The best nickname each week is where Corey's going to pick out his favorites, and then I'm going to choose the one that I think is the best. And the winner for each week is going to get a bundle of silver to go get those shiny new ornaments.
Shiny ornaments
for Festival of the Lost, and we're running it throughout October. So if yours is not picked this week, you've got 3 more chances.
3 more, and it's going to be fun.
The race. The only thing that I will ask, it should be obvious, it's an addendum, but if you do win in a given week, please don't expect to win in a future week if you do,
Oh,
even
yeah.
if you contribute a really good name. We and yours is like somehow picked. I'm sure Corey's vetting them, but we will be passing
Yeah.
on to another name just to
What?
keep it in the interest of fairness.
Yeah, 1 win per
Yes.
Guardian. So
1 win per household.
yes. Well,
So
I would say per Guardian. What if there's some brothers that listen to the show and they're like on separate accounts and they're like, I won.
move into separate apartments and then enter.
Okay, you heard him. You heard the man.
Go pay exponential fees for an apartment, and then let me know. Get a PO box. I don't care.
Oh no.
Let's this is going off the rails real fast.
Yeah, let's get to the
jump
TWAB
on
before
into it.
it
The
happens.
TWAB is massive.
Massive
it's big,
TWAB.
It's massive. We gotta talk about it. It is one of those really, really, really big ones. There's a lot of. I've been wondering what counts as weapon theory as of late. We are going to go through a lot of this, but I'm not gonna read all of them because it's in a very Q&A format.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want to read every single one of those. We're going to read ones that are like, big discussion points, like AKA the Divinity one. We're going to talk about the Divinity question again from a few weeks ago. And want to share some thoughts that I had on the whole situation. But first, we got to talk about account bans. You may have known over the last couple of weeks, a lot of accounts randomly got banned. For one reason or another. And one of the most notable ones that got banned, I would say actually the most notable, was the D2 Gunsmith. He got his account banned. It understandably greatly upset him to the point where he uninstalled the game. And even though Bungie reached out to him to say, hey, this was an error. It took him about 24 hours. This was an error. We didn't mean to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they explained in the TWAB what happened with those. He still understandably is like, I'm really hurt by this, and I don't know if I'm going to come back and do this anymore. So that's a massive loss to the community.
Yeah,
that website has been great for identifying perk roles and kind of seeing what everything can do, finding ideal roles. D2 Gunsmith is one of the absolute best things that I tell new players that they should check out.
Yeah.
Big loss there. Here's part of what happened. So before getting into explanations, we apologize to impacted players up front. Our job is to protect our players, and our team unfortunately did the opposite this past week. When mistakes are made, transparency is important. We hope the information below, vague as it may be, in order to avoid teaching cheat developers about our systems, provides insight to what happened. During the development of one of our cheat detections, a combination of requirements was set for banning a particular class of cheaters. We utilize specific signatures that those players generate. Early last week, we started seeing an increase in appeals and began investigating. Once we identified the problem with the signature, we immediately unbanned anyone we could identify as impacted. We then began reviewing recent security actions with a fine-tooth comb and continued to unban people based on a review of appeals and our own investigations. Here are some points to consider when discussing the most recent ban wave. The number of accounts caught cheating in other ways is much larger than those impacted by the mistake described above. Looking just at this new detection, which itself is a fraction of all security actions to take place, approximately 60 accounts were false positives. This mistake was a result of human error. We worked as quickly as we could to identify and rectify it. We sincerely apologize for the anxiety and uncertainty this caused. Unbans began to occur within 24 hours of the first indication of a problem. Anyone who's appealed against their ban and subsequently been unbanned has received a direct response to their appeal, indicating that reversal. We have several ways of detecting a cheater in Destiny 2, and those unbanned were those affected by the specific error mentioned above. If a player finds himself banned in the future, they were detected by one of our other methods. There is a lot of misinformation being passed around regarding why a person may be banned or unbanned. In instances where unbans happen, players who are knowingly cheating insert themselves in these conversations to try to get their own bans overturned. Please utilize our ban appeal process so that we can follow up with individual accounts. I saw this a lot on Twitter. I'm not going to point fingers and be like, oh, well, this person was a fucking cheater, but there were a lot more than 60 people saying that they got banned last week.
Oh yeah.
And saying that, oh, this is bullshit, Bungie, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, communities of people flocking and saying, like, oh, they would never do that. They would never do this. They would never do this. And a lot of those counts went suspiciously quiet. Yeah. It's amazing what you see when you filter by Destiny 2 on Twitter. You see people who are screaming up being banned unjustly, and I mean, like, D2 Gunsmith is the most notable, right? But if there's really only 60 accounts, like, you're not going to see, you shouldn't be seeing more than those 60 saying that, and honestly, they probably shouldn't be gaining that much traction either.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so unless they were like big names, right? Like, I mean, like
right.
Gunsmith, right?
Yeah,
If Bife got banned, you like that would be a huge.
So I think something similar. I don't want to spread any misinformation, but I believe something similar happened with Dim, with one of the Dim developers earlier in the year, and they identified what it was. It was like something specific because they have access to the API and whatnot, and it was just like something flagged on the network. But about 60 accounts were false positives. That's a very, 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 like, that's not even like a fraction of a percent of the player base. But there were a lot of people who were using this as justification, like, oh, well, fuck Bungie, like, they don't care. And it's like, well, I mean, actually they do. This happened on like a Thursday night or a Friday morning or something is when these bans started rolling out, I think, other than Gunsmith's was earlier in the week. These started happening, and they were like, oh, well, Steam overturned some of them. Like, Steam overturned the ones that Bungie told them to. Like, yeah, that's what happened there. Steam was told to overturn some of those bans.
Right.
I'm not going to pretend to know what goes on in the back end. Like the security team says here, they're not going to go into details because they don't want cheap developers to be able to work around that. And that's probably for the best. Like, for now, I'm willing to take them at their word. If it really only was 60 accounts, and I have no reason to think that that's false, then okay, cool. Like, it was that whatever that other strand you put into there is what was causing the false positives. So, refine that a little bit more before you go dropping it out into the wild. I'm not even going to begin to pretend that I know how account security for a multi-million player game works. But just, that little note, I know that was a big topic of discussion in the community this week. But if you're not on Twitter or Reddit, you probably knew nothing about this, and we're like, okay, cool. It's kind of weird to put in here. That was one of the many things of drama that we had this week. The systems design team kind of answered these questions here in the bulk of the TWAB. As a team, like, some of them answered them like they gave individual answers. I'm not going to read who gave it just because I can't. There's like 6 different names, and I'm not going to keep up with that. Like I said, we're gonna go through. It's in a very Q&A format, which I think is better because it allowed for more direct answers and not the writer's interpretation. But I also don't think like everything needs to be discussed with a fine-tooth comb. Right. So as always, open up your TWABs if you're able to read along with us. Just fly through some of these. When the full auto setting arrives for all weapons, are you still going to keep the full auto trigger system mod as an option? It's kind of nice to have the flexibility without making every weapon full auto. Answer, yes, there are no plans to remove it. The mod is not going away. Cool. I know a lot of people who really like it. What will replace full auto on exotics to have it as a perk when the new accessibility feature goes live? Well, we don't want to make these inadvertently stronger in PvP, but the goal is to replace full auto with something fun and thematic, but more useful in PvE than PvP. Here are a few examples. Traveler's Chosen will get surplus on the catalyst instead of full auto. Vigilance Wing will get ensemble. No Time to Explain will get Feeding Frenzy. I'm very excited for No Time to Explain with Feeding Frenzy, personally.
Ooh.
All right.
That sounds
Let's
fun.
talk the big one here. Let's talk the big one. The big kahunas right here at the beginning. The one that has kahunas. Had all the reaction videos have focused on this today. It's been the subject of discussion for the better part of about 4 or 5 weeks now. It's time. Divinity. We're gonna read the entire thing, and then we'll have a discussion. Note: encounters are built around players having access to being able to weaken, as many folks have theorized. We don't believe that Divinity in its current form is actually a balance problem, i.e., it's not necessarily too strong in isolation. That said, Divinity is incredibly dominant in endgame PvE because it trivializes aiming precision weapons and has an extremely high uptime for weaken. The most important issue is that Divinity granting 30% weaken sucks the air out of the room for all other weaken sources, such as Tether and Tractor Cannon, and we don't want to power creep past Divinity to make them interesting. With this in mind, we've been looking at Divinity for a while now and have tested a variety of changes in Season 19 over the past few months, landing on reducing Divinity's weekend from 30% to 15%. Pause. That's it. That's all it is. The bubble is not getting smaller. The bubble is not going away. The ability to crit is not going away. The debuff is going from 30 to 15%, which automatically means that Tether and Tractor Cannon will immediately be better. If things like, oh god, I forget what it was. There is a Void mod for a few seasons where the grenades could basically apply the debuff as well. I keep wanting to call it Screaming Darkus, and that's not what it is. That's definitely like an attack from Digimon. I genuinely can't remember what it is. It's like on the tip of my tongue, but it's something darkness.
What if you could carry
Screaming
Digimon in your
Darkness.
ghost?
Oh, bro, if I could put fucking Wargreymon in my ghost, then we'd be having different conversations about this game. This is basically along the lines of what I was fine with seeing happen, and that people like, well, Salt didn't propose this. Salt proposed making it a 0% debuff. The important thing to realize is, yes, your debuff is going away, or not going away, but it will be weakened, which means that other sources such as Tether will take over, because Tether has a 30% as well. Here's the kicker. You're still going to run Divinity because of the giant ass crit bubble. You're still going to run it. It just might not be the most important thing anymore. Like, an experienced raid team probably will be able to get through a lot of encounters or, end bosses without needing it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some bosses, though, like, for example, fucking Tanax.
Yeah.
Tanax is flying around. It's really hard to hit his head through all that debris and get those precision hits with linear fusions. Shoot the bubble that forms over his butt. Shoot that. You shoot his udder. Shoot the Divinity udder. That's basically what you got to do. King's Fall, you can just shoot straight into Oryx's chest. That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't need to Golgoroth. War Priest, we only use it because of the War Priest shuffle.
Yeah. I mean, the first time, the first 2 times I ran King's Fall since it came out, we didn't use Divinity at all, and we did fine.
It's fine. Like, it might make you might have to do another phase of damage.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I think we did 4 instead of 2 or 3.
Everyone's got another avenue to go with things like Rolk and Caretaker and things like that. I don't think it's like absolutely essential for any of the bosses except for Tanax. And I think you can make an argument, well, for main bosses, for end bosses, I think you can make a case that it's not essential, but it's pretty damn helpful on the Sanctified Mind and Garden, because it's so far away.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard to nail those Vex crit shots, and shooting the bubble is significantly simpler.
Yeah.
I would argue that those two are the ones where I would be like, yeah, I'm taking this without shadow of a doubt. I typically keep it with me anyways. There's nothing that is an overload killer like that. You shoot literally 1 ounce of ammo at it. It stuns the champ, swap to your heavy or whatever, or your melees, and just destroy it. I think this is a more than fair change that goes in, and it keeps the integrity of the weapon there with its function, but it just reduces how much debuff you get. This is a fair middle ground, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with this. And I wanna find what Cosmos said. Cosmos said something really good earlier today in regards to this. Something that Cosmo and Dylan, well, not Cosmo today, but Dylan was pretty clear about this week, was that they know that their communication has been very bad as of late, and that it's not what we expect as a community. We were spoiled for so long, and I think they're trying to find a healthy medium between what we're getting now and what we used to get.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of that,
all the bullshit from the summer.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, is like everything that happened over the summer and the complaints and stuff from just the community is like, I wouldn't have communicated that as much either,
No, and I mean, like, we know straight up that that's led to a decrease in how much we get communicated with from Bungie now. So Cosmo said the div change was planned before the spirited debates on social media began, which we know. They talked about it in a past TWAB where they were like, hey, we're going to take a pass at div. It's fine to give your constructive feedback to Bungie, but do not harass anyone in the community for having a different opinion. And it's pretty fucking sad that we have to come out and say that. Like, I think it's very sad that that has to be said by anybody. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like one of the one of the comments down here goes, I'm okay with this nerf as long as an alternative is given, but it seems no such thing was given. Your fucking alternatives are tether and tractor cannon for starters, you twat waffle. Like, it's not that hard to understand.
Yeah.
You know, we have floated on this show, okay, what if we got better support weapons? Like, I think the exotic glaives were meant to be a prototype of what a support exotic could be. They were just executed so piss poorly that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I would like to see iterations on things like that. I mean, it's just, even when you introduce another support exotic, it's going to be really hard to say, yeah, this still beats getting a giant crit bubble.
Yeah.
Like, in 3-player activities, I don't see myself taking Divinity in unless I gotta stun a whole bunch of champs. I see me leaving it on the sidelines now, and, you know, again, unless they have like a real tiny or hard to hit crit spot, I see myself leaving that behind now and just being like, well, I'm gonna trust myself, you know. And at least now it's linears that we're hitting with Divinity. It used to be people who were shooting fucking rockets at it, man. Like, that's just sad. You don't need the div bubble for the rockets. You're doing it for the debuff at that point. But I'm seeing some people moan and groan about this. And like, I don't know what you want them to do, because it did become very clear that unless you were using it for DPS, tether was basically useless.
Yeah.
And like, listen, I like running tether. I like running void a lot. I typically run void in a raid. Man, I can use like literally any of my supers. Like, any of my supers paired with div is fine. Like, I'm completely fine with being the div bitch. Like, you can make your hunter who's gonna run void div bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, whoever, you know, if somebody wants to run tractor cannon, someone wants to run div, cool. Like, I think that's gonna be a spicy strat, because then you got two people who aren't doing damage really.
Yeah.
That could be very interesting. And I think in order for tractor cannon to be viable, snipers are going to have to be buffed pretty big on the PvE side of things.
And I think they might be if this is the way they're going.
I'm curious to see what happens. So season 19 sounds like when we're getting
Darcy's coming back, baby.
Darcy was never here. So I'm very, very curious to see how this goes. It seems like a lot of people are really, really into this and are fine with it. I do want to make it really clear that it is ridiculous if you're saying that this is only for because the top streamers were complaining, or the top raiders. Like, no, it's not. And I realize when it comes from them, it does sound a bit arrogant. And I've been pretty clear in my belief on that too. That I do think that sometimes, and part of it's the way that this community views content creators and streamers, is like we put them on this gigantic pedestal.
Yeah.
And like their word is law. And like, yes, in an MMO, great. That's fine. But just because they don't think that a weapon should be doing that doesn't necessarily mean that that's true. Like, they may think that it's not necessary, but the rest of us that are not in the top 0.1% probably are still going to benefit from it. Like,
yeah.
I would say that, like, I feel like a lot of raid teams that I run with that are not, you know, LFG'd or anything like that, my usual tired and true day one crew, we could do most raids without div. We use it as a tool because it's easier. And I mean, hey, we're getting a free 30% debuff. Why wouldn't I use it?
Yeah.
You know, now I have zero problem going in and being like, oh, I have to, okay, cool. I have to run tether. Let me pull div out and shoot my tether and be good to go. Or somebody else wants to run div. Cool. I'll shoot off a tether for you to, put your div up. I'll shoot my tether so I get the damage bonus when it hits. And, cool. There are still going to be some bosses where it's a little bit hard to get that off. Like, for example, trying to shoot Oryx with a tether is at times a little challenging.
Yeah.
Simply because he's so far away.
Yeah.
Not because he's hard to hit, but because he's so fucking far away. I ran Mobius Quiver in there on my first clear and realized very quickly this is not going to work. But hey, Deadfall has a purpose again. I fail to see how this is a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like, yes, this is what the game needed. Like, no, but I think this is a pretty fair change, I think, overall.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Like
Yes.
I would understand if Div was like if or any other weapon was like dominating like PvP or something, but with like a weapon like this that is for PvP or PvE endgame stuff mostly, right? Why are people why are people complaining? Is it because it's like difficult to get? Is it because like people don't want to take the time to go do the puzzles and do the quest or what? Like I guess like
So I think it's a combination of a few things. It seems to me like and I mean, obviously, I don't expect the entire community to hear every single comment made on obscure podcasts, but Destiny Massive Breakdowns had Mercules, one of the he used to be one of the big one of the big weapon content creators that I really enjoyed. He works at Bungie now. He talked about it on Massive Breakdowns pod at the end of last season, I believe it was, and said that they were going to look at ways to change Divinity up because it had simply become too dominant. I myself had forgotten about those comments until after Salt came out and started saying things. I think that the optics of it being somebody who has finished World's First 3 times in a row now, Vault of Glass, Vow of the Disciple, and King's Fall, for those keeping track at home, I think the optics of somebody who has finished World's First in those 3 raids complaining about it, it would be the equivalent of Datto basically coming out and saying, well, we don't need, in Destiny 1 coming out and saying, we don't need Gallarhorn anymore. If he were to come out and say that he found a way to do Crota without it, and I mean, there were ways to do Crota without it, but Galley was by far the easiest way to do Crota.
yeah.
Far and away.
Yeah.
Far and away. It's not even a joke. And that would be the equivalent of him coming out and saying, we don't need Gallarhorn back then. And I think a lot of people took it the wrong way because they only read the first tweet, which I think did come off as slightly elitist. But if you read the thread, which I did when I stopped seeing red,
Mhm.
it was like, okay, I don't agree here, but you're at least trying to start a discussion. I think
Yeah.
so many in the community just immediately ran and says, oh, streamers are trying to take away our fun toys again, because there has been a history of predominantly PvP focused content creators, I would say, who complain about everything under the sun as it happens. Any sort of change that is not exactly what they wanted is wrong. Like, look at the skill based matchmaking change, how much they hated that. But most of them, most of the good ones to watch, I would say at least, conceded we may not like it. This was not a change for us. This was a change for the overall health of the game. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind here, as this nerf feels like something that is still, it's going to give a little bit more of a challenge, but it opens the door for different builds. And I enjoy that. Like, as a hunter, like, nothing's going to change for me.
Mhm.
I would wager for most raid teams, a lot of things really aren't going to change. You're not going to get your 30% debuff. Boo fucking who? Run a tractor, have somebody run a tractor cannon, have someone run a tether. Like, I don't, and I guess I feel I don't see the problem because I am a hunter main. That's all I run in raids. That's all I run in anything is a hunter. Like, so I'm ready to go with the debuff. My whole class is built around support. Has been. It
Mhm.
has been for years because
Yeah.
I've run div
Yeah.
and I have no problem with it. It's like, that's why I don't change my stuff when I go into game, but I'm usually running div in there. Like, it it's a trade-off, but it's a good trade-off. And I just, if you're going to get that upset over 15% debuff change, and we won't know how this is until we're actually in game, right? Like, I do kind of want to see how that 15% stacks up against like tether to see what damage looks like. I
Yeah.
want to compare. I want somebody to do comparison videos because I'm looking forward to running both at once. I'll drop my tether and then I'll throw up my div bubble. I have no problem with doing that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these are the people who they have the one build and they don't want to stray from it at all. And it's like, oh, I can't, I'm not being the absolute most optimal. Like, it's not being made easy for me. And I think that's part of the struggle with introducing new support weapons is wording things in a way in game on a technical side. It's like, I wouldn't know the numbers breakdown if I didn't read TWABs or listen to pods and things like that. I wouldn't know this shit. I would just know, hey, on its surface, Divinity got weaker. Like, what do you guys want to do? Because the only other solution that we really have here, and I do think it's a conversation worth having now. We kind of had it a few weeks ago, but I think it's a conversation that needs to start happening now over at Bungie HQ. Is okay, we've reined in Divinity a little bit. We've built every single encounter around people probably having div in terms of health for bosses. Can we rein the health in a little bit? Can we reduce the health a little bit on some of these bosses? Because it's fucking astronomical. Like, Oryx has like 18 million hit points. Excuse me, not Oryx. War Priest. War Priest has almost 20k. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Or 20 mil. 20 mil.
20 million.
20k.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20k would be a one-hit kill. 20 million hit points. That's ludicrous. Like, Atheon, for example, has like 11 or 12, I think. Like, there's been so much creep in terms of boss health, which I think is almost as unhealthy as having one weapon dominate everything. It's like, so for 3 years now, and it's 3 years to the day that Divinity came out, essentially this week, that we are finding out about this. I hesitate to even call it a nerf, like that we're finding out this change to the gun. And I'm kind of in the same position as you. Like, I get why people are upset, but I don't. I'm gathering the people who are upset probably don't raid very much, or aren't confident in their own play style or their own abilities, and like, that's fine. Everyone has a skill ceiling. Everyone's got a skill ceiling, unfortunately, and Divinity is a weapon who helps those of us on the lower end of the bracket, as opposed to the the pro players and like the god tier day one people. Those of us who are not like in that top 30,000-40,000 group, who are maybe in like the next couple of groups sprinkled throughout, like, Divinity still really helps us, at least until we figure out what we're doing. And like I said, just because you run Tether doesn't mean you can't still run Div. Like, I want that free crit bubble. Yeah. I don't know about y'all, but I mean, we're doing so much damage with, multiple Storm Chasers and type hands now that, yeah, I want that crit bubble. It makes my life easier, but I don't think I need it in every single encounter. I see it now as being able to shift to being a tool for helping you get those shots if your aim is really bad with these precision guns. I see nothing wrong with that at all. I did not agree when they wanted to bump it down, or when Salt was like, oh, let's just take it from 30 to 0. Like, no, fuck you. We're not doing that. I would not be shocked to see this get moved maybe back up to 20%. But that would not be until post Lightfall.
Yeah. No, I mean,
think they're going to let it sit for a season, especially with, a dungeon or a raid every single season. Right. I would even wager they might want to sit through the raid and Lightfall to see what they're going to do here.
Yeah, I think I would too, just to like, especially if there's bosses in there that people are going to try to use div on anyway, to see how they, or maybe they try something different, just to see. So, okay, I was just like, I know people are complaining, but I just didn't know where this stemmed from, besides, Salt kind of talking about it at first, but I totally forgot that they talked about it a couple of seasons ago. So,
yeah. Any more thoughts on Div before we move on? We have so much to get through tonight.
Nope, let's get through it.
Let's get through it. Okay. Adept raid weapon viability. As it stands, crafted base raid weapons are flat out better than Adept raid weapons. We're not happy with this current state and have changes coming in Lightfall that give the new Lightfall raid Adept weapons access to enhanced perks. Note that this is not going to be full freeform crafting. It's a little complex, so please look out for more information to come when they're a little bit closer to Lightfall's release. Cool, because right now there's no reason to go do Adept raids.
Yeah.
Future plans for champion exotic weapons. I fucking hate this answer, so let's get my sour point out of the way today.
No.
We don't have specific plans to add anti-champion mechanics to existing exotic weapons. Why? Why not? Every single, and I understand it's so much easier said than done, but why can we not get more anti-champions? Because half the weapons that have anti-champion built in, you're not going to fucking use. Who's using Tommy's matchbook? Who's using symmetry? Nobody's using this shit in endgame content. Nobody's using that in fucking endgame content.
I don't think I've ever used Tommy's matchbook.
I should calm down a little bit. Like, Ariana's Vow, yes, I've seen people actually use it. I think that it's reduced drastically with the addition of Arbalest. But, god damn it, guys. The goal of recent additions was to address some obvious holes in the options available. No shit. And we're happy with how that worked out. That said, we are building anti-champion functionality into a new exotic weapon in Season 19 and may revisit other weapons later if we see a need. You see a fucking need, start doing it. Like, this takes like 2 seasons to implement from the time you guys start thinking about it. Please start doing it now.
I
Because this is insane.
I'm so tired of champions.
I fucking hate champions already, and this makes it worse when I can't run some of the stuff I want to run.
Yeah. And if like you like continue. Sorry, I'll save my rant for later.
I just the shift of the champion mods from having to be on your gun to being on your armor was great a couple years ago. That was a great change. But if champions are going to be here to stay, you've got to do a massive exotic overhaul, not just in terms to tuning the guns, but in terms of giving them intrinsic anti-champion values. Arbalist was a great step in the right direction. I think that some of the bows that have gotten that intrinsic functionality has been great. Thunderlord, that's been great. Because for so long, the only overload weapon we had was Div.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious. I was taking it into things like GMs, and I take it in the Legendary Lost sectors still to purely stun champions.
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm at, especially if you can get an arc burn going. You can just sit there and wear them down with Div by itself. I'm being a little dramatic here, but I think this is absolutely absurd that 3 years in, we're still having to beg for this.
Mm-hmm.
If every single weapon coming out, like every exotic, had something built into it, that would be fine.
I think every exotic. I kind of think every exotic weapon should have something built into it.
I think they should have something, and like something that I don't know. This would have to be in like crafting, not even 2.0, like 3.0 down the line. Like, let me get a weapon to like encourage me to like level my weapons up. Like when I get something to like level 30, for example, like that's when like you unlocked everything from a memento. For example, that's when you get the name and like the shader and everything associated with it. Let me choose if I want to make it like permanently an anti-barrier weapon or something, regardless of what the mod is for the season. That would be really cool to me. That would give a purpose to crafting, I think. That would that would encourage me to craft more weapons, that's for sure. Rather than just like, well, I got a good roll to drop, I don't need to do it. Like, man, you're telling me I can craft this to be intrinsically anti-barrier at any time, or intrinsically unstoppable or overload or whatever. Like, all right, that's a little spicy. I can do it. I could do that. I don't know. That's probably a discussion we need to get John on here for, because he's the only person that semi-defends champions that I know anymore. The rest of us are just like, God, get me the fuck out of here. Get champions out of here. Kingsfall weapons have unorthodox perk pools. What are the feelings about continuing to do this versus making custom raid perks to differentiate endgame rewards? We have guidelines for how spicy perk pools can be depending on the difficulty of the source of the weapon. For example, trials and raid weapons get to break our standard perk combination rules. The Kingsfall weapons push this to an extreme, and we're evaluating whether an actual balance issue. That is definitely talking about Firefly, Dragonfly rolling together.
I have that on the scout rifle.
It's fucking wild. We intend raid origin traits to make raid weapons feel unique and may still make one or more perks that are exclusive to a new raid. Starting in Season 19, you will see a small number of non-raid weapons get access to perks from older raids.
Ooh.
So I have to wonder what the definition of older means. Does that mean like maybe recombination or reconstruction from Deepstone may show up in a sniper next season? Like, that would be a little spicy to me.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, a world sniper, and I think that's the right way to do it. Use the raids for new perk testing grounds, and then bring them to the regular game, like year and a half later or something. Year and a half later, once all the kinks are worked out, and you're like, okay, the period of exclusivity is up. Let's give this to everyone now. Let's get everybody a chance.
Yeah.
There's a couple of random things on here about Outbreak and about Cold Denial. You guys can read those at your leisure. Do stability perks such as Rapid Hit affect the perfect draw window on bows? Yes, anything that affects the stability stat on a bow will affect the perfect draw window. How hard was it for the weapons team to add subclass verbs like Headstone, Chill Clip, and Incandescent to weapons? Do you enjoy syncing the two more closely in gameplay and builds? Subclass 3.0 verbs opened a huge amount of design space for weapons. The perks we've already made are just the beginning. Thank fucking God. That has been the most fun thing of the last year and a half of Destiny, has been Headstone, Incandescent, and Volt Shot. Those have been three of the best.
Yeah.
They've been so much fun.
I got Volt Shot on the scout rifle from this season, and it's...
I have Volt Shot 4th times the charm on mine.
That's what I have on mine.
I also the one I've been running more than anything though is moving target dragonfly because I mean I'll slap moving target on literally anything.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying that one just as much because the explosion from dragonfly
Yeah.
it chains the lightning just chains. It's so great.
Oh, it does. That's cool.
Yeah. Oof. I haven't taken arc off this season. I think I
That's
used void
spicy.
one time. Yeah, I went from hating arc and I've played more arc in like 3 days of subclass 3.0 than I had in 8 years combined. Why does only here's more exotic weapon woes. Why do only a subset of exotic weapons tie into subclass 3.0? We are not planning to tie every exotic into 3.0 verbs, but over time we'll add functionality to several of them, starting with those strongly themed around damage types. We're currently looking at seasons 20 and 21 for passes on this, but we don't have anything more on this particular topic at this time. 20 and 21, correct me if I'm wrong, is the season that Lightfall launches and the summer season of
Yep.
2023.
Yep.
Okay. So this is stuff that is like 6 months or more out minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum. I would expect things like Sunshot to probably get looked at.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if Sunshot had something. We know they say it kind of later on they're going to take a pass at Risk Runner. I would expect both of them, since those are so heavily tied to their elements already.
Yeah.
Trying to think like in terms of void stuff, like well, definitely probably ruinous effigy. I would say
I
ruinous
would have said
effigy
ruinous
and
FG.
Black Talon maybe could get something going on. Are we going to be able to have multiple perks in each column on crafted weapons at some point in the future? We are investigating this for a possible release, but it's a more complicated task than it appears at first glance. Nothing in the immediate future. We will continue looking deeper into this. Them saying nothing in the immediate future makes me think that we'll revisit this question as we approach Lightfall. This might be like a next summer thing if it's able to happen. The how do the extra perks on ritual rank resets actually work? Is there a captive benefit? So if you didn't know, the more that you reset your Vanguard, Gambit, or Crucible ranks, you can get additional perks on the weapons that drop from those specific activities. So for example, say you wanted several perk choices on one quiet moment. Clearly the season's best playlist activity weapon of the three. You would want to reset your rank up to 4 times to get 4 full choices. So here's what you get. The left column maximum perk count increases at first and third resets, and the right column increases at second and fourth. The maximum possible is 3 perks in each column. So you can get up to 3 perks in each column. That's wild. So like 6 resets, and you can have, if you have the stomach to get through 6 resets in any of Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit, have at it, man. Fucking have at it. I can barely stomach 1 on some of those. So
Yeah.
GG's. If you get a servant leader with 6 perks on it, I want photographic evidence. There's been a lot of discussion on perk drop rates recently. We'd like to know if all perks are truly weighed equally and randomized, or if certain perks, i.e. newer ones, have drop priority. I would also like to know this one because I did the second encounter of fucking duality about 50 times in order to get anything on a storm chaser that was a damage perk. Weapon perks are weighted equally under all circumstances. 0 cases in the game where 1 perk is more likely to roll than another. I've heard you're reworking 20 exotic weapons in season 19. We said we were touching 20 exotics, both buffs and nerfs, but the extent of that varies quite a bit, from a substantial rework like Lord of Wolves to small but impactful change like Legend of Acreus. There's a lot to cover, both big and small. But it's not going to be 20 weapons, it's going to be 26 exotic weapons.
Jeez.
So a good chunk of exotics, like at least a third of them, are going to get a pass.
Yeah.
In the next season.
Yeah.
Here's go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to think of how they're gonna do Legend of Acreus, and maybe they already changed or explained this because of Leviathan being gone.
It's in the kiosk.
I know, but
You just go buy it.
I know, but there's a quest tied to making it better. to
Yeah,
Leviathan.
you just buy it now.
Oh, you just buy the whole thing? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain it just like auto completes it for you.
Oh. Well, okay.
Something like that. But I remember something along those lines happening when it got taken out.
Yeah. Okay. Not that I'm like
Um,
rushing out to use Legends of Acreus, but
Legend of Acreus has been good in approximately, I think, one encounter in the past 4 years, and that was Crown of Sorrow.
yeah.
What are the criteria for reprising Destiny 1 weapons into Destiny 2? Now, these two paragraphs is something that I think has been a bit of a hot discussion, at least in our community, and some speculation surrounding Wrath of the Machine. So, to sheds a little bit of light on that, and I think all but confirms that Wrath of the Machine is what's coming back next year.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank God.
It's important to note that it's impossible to simply copy and paste Destiny 1 content into Destiny 2. Because of engine changes and the significantly higher bar for art quality on current generation hardware, any D1 content has to be rebuilt from scratch. They're basically the same development cost as brand new D2 weapons, and with some exceptions, we believe players significantly prefer new content over reprised. Pause. Absolutely. That can apply to anything that is weapons or content, I think. Like,
Yeah.
when we sit here and go, oh my God, why aren't we getting more strikes? Like, I'm sitting here being like, oh, just wave your wand. It's the same engine.
File save as D2.
Yeah, basically. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm fucking stupid. For raids, we will always reprise an exotic weapon associated with a raid when we bring that into Destiny 2. We'll select the 6 most popular legendary weapons and reprise those as well. So that kind of clears up why we didn't get things like Atheon's Epilogue, for example.
Yeah.
With Vault of Glass.
Oh, I forgot about Atheon's Epilogue.
I didn't because I love it.
Well, I know you do, but I never used it, so like I just
One
kinda...
other thing, and this hasn't come up yet, but in the event that a raid didn't have an exotic, or that exotic has already come back, or there were fewer than 5 legendaries, we get to make new weapons to match that raid.
Oh my God, Siva weapons!
For that basically confirms to me that Wrath of the Machine is the raid next year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
but I mean, at the same
technically, Outbreak Perfected is a different weapon than Outbreak Prime.
they're not gonna. They're not. If
I
they
know.
had
I
2
know. I'm just
outbreaks,
kidding.
could you imagine the outrage?
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing.
I would be upset.
Although I bet, like, instead of buying it from the kiosk, I bet that there is a way to earn it in this raid too. Though, do you think they would do that just for the puzzle, just for the hell of it?
I don't know. I feel like that would be a raid where they would do another quest exotic. Like, it
Yeah.
would be just something unique. Again, Siva Trace Rifle. It's perfect for it.
Yeah, that would be cool. And maybe that's the weapon that replaces Outbreak Perfected in that puzzle. Do you think they bring that puzzle back? They would have to bring that puzzle back, right?
I feel like they have to, because it's such a big part of the game.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like which raid didn't have 6 legendaries, because it's not Crota.
No. Fang of Ear Ute.
I miss that so much. Not even Fang. I miss Song Song of Ear Ute is what I miss.
Yeah.
Let's keep going though, since we're gonna obsess over Wrath of the Machine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's some stuff in here on various perks. Adagio, I'd recommend coming and reading on this one if you've ever been confused on what it exactly does. What does Zen Moment actually do? I've had people ask me this, and I have a hard time explaining it myself. Each hit grants a stack, maximum 5 stacks, that lowers recoil. Reloading or not hitting for 1 second clears all stacks. As for what it does, maximum stacks massively reduces recoil. I like Zen Moment on an SMG, and that's about it. Occasionally on an auto rifle, I can get down with it. Maybe on a pulse. I don't think I've seen it on too many pulses though. In your opinion, would you use accuracy perks, such as Firmly Planted, on slug shotties? By my testing, they seem to be very accurate by default. I don't observe much spread. Slug shotties are very accurate, so it's likely only worth using specific accuracy perks if you plan on using them while airborne or in other situations that reduce accuracy. What are the numbers on enhanced perks? Are there any guidelines or rule of thumbs for all? Specifically, how much do the enhanced versions of Firmly Planted and Opening Shot give versus the base perks? The guideline is that an enhanced perk should be 5 to 10% stronger than a base perk. We do exceed this in some cases, though. Here's an example of the enhanced versions. Enhanced Firmly Planted grants an additional +5 stability and +5 handling compared to the base, and Enhanced Opening Shot grants an additional +5 range and +5 aim assist. So there you have it. They're not like life altering in most cases, but there are a few things, i.e., Impulse Amplifier with the glaive, that it's very noticeable. I want to be able to do the enhanced perks of like things like Incandescent that I'm really enjoying just for like maximum carnage.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me I can get 5% more damage out of that explosion? Bring it on. Let's go.
Right.
But again, like I don't think it's really worth obsessing over too many of these. Maybe you just do them on your favorite guns and not on all the guns. They're still having to work on One Quiet Moment. Draw home bows, odds and ends. I'm looking to see if any of these like really need to be read. I don't care about what replica weapon each weapons designer wants. Favorite perk combinations that the weapons team have. Among the ones that are here are Perpetual Motion Surrounded on sidearm and submachine guns, Heating Up Rampage on pulse rifles, Stats for All Reservoir Burst on fusions, Grave Robber Golden Tricorn on arc weapons for PvE, Moving Target Perpetual Motion plus Kill Clip on any primary ammo weapon for PvP. Totally agree. Perpetual Motion Killing Wind, Killing Wind multi-kill clip. So what I'm getting is Perpetual Motion and Killing Wind are very popular with the weapon designers, which explains why I see them on so goddamn many guns. But I will note on their replica weapons, they inadvertently confirmed that we are getting 2 exotics next season. One is a kinetic, one is a solar weapon. Because they say here, the answers in order are given as Dead Man's Tale, Lawrence Driver, Redacted Season 19 Solar Exotic, Redacted Lightfall Raid Exotic Weapon, Redacted Season 19 Kinetic Exotic Weapon, Redacted Season 18 Festival of the Lost Weapon, which, I mean, we all know it's the fucking sniper rifle by now. Okay? That image has only been floating around for 3 months. We all know it's a sniper. And then Grid Skipper. It's like you have all these like epic that are redacted and then Grid Skipper. I like Grid Skipper, but man.
Epic Redacted. That's the name of the episode. Epic Redacted Grid Skipper.
There's some discussion about what makes a god roll up here. When we use the phrase god roll, and Mercules is the one who answered this. I am only calling him out because I, again, did like his weapon breakdowns a lot. It depends on what role the weapon is going to be. Those roles can be broken up into some general areas, such as PvE, ad clearing, tanky target, and DPS, and PvP. And PvP can even be broken down into dueling and kill chaining. There's a lot of examples of each of perks in those columns. Go read them. Otherwise, I'm reading every perk in the game, basically. But that's kind of what you should be. If you're just starting to care about weapons, I think this is a very good guide for you, right there.
Yeah.
That list is good for some basic perks that fit those engagement styles, and then kind of go from there. Like, don't be afraid to play off meta, though. I would say, like, nothing says you have to only use these perks for those things. It's just you're probably gonna have a higher chance of success if you do that.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on rangefinder drastically changing the effective engagement distances on weapons? The zoom benefit already improves damage fall off and effective accuracy, but the aim assist fall off increase feels like a lot. We'll be removing the added aim assist fall off in the mid-season balance pass. The perk is ridiculously strong with just the zoom bonus. It doesn't need to increase aim assist in addition to that. Is someone going to fix Jade Rabbit? The Fate of All Pools perk is inconsistent and sometimes doesn't work at all. Yes, the perk was having similar issues to what's going on with Cranial Spike on Dead Man's Tale. The plan is to change it so that rapidly changing precision hits, effectively the same trigger as triple tap, will make your next body shot deal the same damage as a crit, and you'll be able to store up 3 increased damage body shots at a time. So if you hit 9 crits quickly, you could follow that up and kill somebody in PvP with 3 body shots. We want to reward accuracy and make the gun easier to use instead of the other way around. How do you feel about Season 17 and 18 balances? Now they've been out in the wild for a decent amount of time. We think they landed pretty well, things considered. 150 scout rifles probably got overbuffed by a small amount. Auto rifles probably did not get buffed enough. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have something to say, Corey?
No, I was going to say something about Jade Rabbit, but we moved past it. So,
Fuck Jada Rabbit. Here we go. In the mid-season balance pass, we are making a number of changes. Here we go. Sizable stability bump for auto rifles and trace rifles. Small buff to crit hit damage on adaptive frame pulse rifles and precision frame auto rifles. Slightly reduce the effective range of pulse rifles at low to mid stat values. Values. Nerfs to Jade Rabbit in no time to explain, ease of use. Continuation of the Lord of Wolves rework. Small rocket launcher. Blast radius buff. Glaive damage resistance nerf. Sidearm aim assist fallout buff, sniper flinch rework, small tweaks to submachine guns that are outperforming their intended ranges, small decrease to high impact scout rifle damage. Risk runner PvP arc damage resistance reduction. It will still remain ridiculous in PvE. In Season 19, we have an additional list of changes we will be making, including removing some shotgun randomness, improved hit detection for glaives, yes! Reworking and changing nearly 20 weapon perks, and changing 26 exotic weapons. There's a lot coming in the next 8 weeks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
We are still going here.
Improved hit detection on glaives. Like, I feel like glaives are over OP anyway.
It's pretty wonky in some PvE content. If there's too much on screen, it's pretty bad. I've swung at something directly in front of me and it hasn't hit. So it's pretty frustrating to be in like a GM or in like a Master Nightfall and for your hits not to be picking up. It's really frustrating. There's some stuff here about fusion rifles, specifically about the main ingredient that Xur sells. Are there any plans to add more subclass verbs to more exotics? Nothing concrete to share now, but we're always on the lookout for places where we can add subclass verbs. We have to be cautious as some of the intrinsic functionality of the verbs may actually be worse than what is on the exotic weapon, or the uptime of the verb on the exotic weapon could cause severe balance issues. Will skill-based matchmaking being present in control have any effect on the way we handle weapon balancing? We already used survival and trials as more indicative game modes for balancing purposes. Survival has had skill-based matchmaking, and trials has the flawless pool, which enables us to see what good players use and what is effective when they are more likely to care about winning. It will, however, allow us to see what the different skill groups of players that generally avoid survival or trials use, and what they are effective with when they are not in skill pools that are as mixed as control used to be. If skill-based matchmaking continues to roll out over time, it may give us the option to revisit weapon skill gaps. There is some stuff about sniper rifle and special linear fusion rifle flinch, which is your Lawrence Driver and your Arbalest. Basically, they say they want to work on the sniper rifle flinch before they try to mitigate it over to Arbalest and Lawrence. They want to see how shotgun changes land before they do anything with fusion rifle changes or rapid fire specifically. Do aggressive frames have high caliber rounds baked in? No. However, the flinch from a single shot is proportional to damage, so high damage per bullet weapons will flinch more than low damage per bullet weapons. Okay. Some explanations about dynamic sway and box breathing, zone angles, zoom cone angles. Like there's a lot of like deep shit in here. I encourage you to go read it if you're curious about any of those topics. I'm not going to dive into those personally because we have a ton of questions to get to tonight.
We do.
We have like 8 or 9 questions to get to, and some of them are on some of the things we talked about tonight, or other topics going around the community right now. We have a lore corner to get to. Yeah. Next week sounds like we're going to get Festival of the Lost details. So
yeah.
We'll see how that goes. Curious to see if that actually happens or not.
Is it going to be Festival of the Cost again?
It sounds like it's going to be for me. Corey, let's shift into some questions.
Let's do it. Question time.
Let's do questions. Let me pull up all of our questions. My handy dandy phone.
We have so many questions.
We're gonna start with our Twitter questions. Yeah, God, we're gonna start with our Twitter questions tonight. And some of these, like, we don't need to have like a full discussion on. We're just gonna go. Here's our answer at the end. Sammy Gobo writes in and asks if you could get one iconic weapon from an existing character in Destiny that's not already in the game, so not Stranger's Rifle, Ace of Spades, Lubray's Ruin, etc. What would it be, and what would you want it to do? That's actually a really difficult question because I think most of the weapons that we see people using are in the game.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna go give me like Atheon's fucking cannon, it's really hard to answer this question. Like, that's about the only thing and that's not like me being hyperbolic. It's Zavala uses Origin Story.
Yeah.
What's her face? Ikora uses Comedian.
Yeah.
Like, Drifter uses Trust. What else? What am I supposed to do with this information? I don't know. So I mean, I guess Atheon, Shax has my sword from Taken King.
That's true.
That he's not using, by the way.
Yeah. Well.
So I don't know. I guess I would say that I want Atheon's cannon. Like, that's about the only thing that, or I want like Crota. No, I want Crota's sword. I want Crota's sword permanently.
Yeah, but you can pick those swords up all the time.
I want Crota's sword as an exotic, Corey.
Okay.
I want it to like have a property of like the Weapons of Sorrow. I want it to like have a decay effect that spreads from like enemy to enemy, for like have it apply like Scorch. I want it something similar to that, but like I don't have to actually make contact with the enemy. I just have to slam it down in their vicinity for it to apply.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of My Hero Academia, so I'm thinking about Shigaraki's decay. If you watch My Hero, you know what I'm talking
about. I'm just trying to think of like weapons that other characters use.
This is a tricky question.
This is a hard question. This is a really hard question. I mean, I think Saint's shotgun is already in the game, right? Doesn't he use Perfect Paradox? Yeah.
Yes, so, we've had Perfect Paradox twice, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, so I mean, I mean, straight. No Time to Explain is in there, which is probably my favorite.
Well, it's the Stranger's Rifle, so
yeah. I mean, I think No Time to Explain is my favorite of the. I mean, what weapon does Anna Bray use?
I want to say it's one of the Braytech weapons.
Polaris Lance.
Yeah, it probably is Polaris Lance.
Honestly. No, it is. I just looked it up. It's the exotic scout rifle Anna Bray presents, featured in Warmind. Yeah, okay. Man, I have no idea. This is hard.
This is really hard.
I mean, I would say like one of the scout rifles from the Cabal, but it's Skyburner's Oath. So I mean, and then the Fallen or the Elixni use a variation of what, Queenbreaker,
something like that.
So I don't know. I guess like the Vex pistols. Oh man, this is tough.
The Vex pistols.
I don't know what
the Vex Stormtrooper guns.
Give me a trace rifle that shoots Vex milk.
Give me a trace rifle that's Atheon's cannon.
Man, this is a tough one. I don't have an answer because everything I've named is already in the game. I'm like looking them up. Man. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have an answer. This is terrible. Yeah. I guess I mean, I don't even have an answer. I'm just trying to think through all the boss fights that we've ever done. What weapon does Skolas use? Bring that back.
The Scorch cannons.
Oh no, gross.
All right.
How about Varix? How about Varix's missing arm? Is that an option?
Oh, Varix's staff. I want it to be a glaive.
Oh yeah, that is a good idea. A stasis glaive.
That would be really cool. We're gonna move on though. Sammy, you gave us a really hard question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about it a little bit more this week. I may have a better answer next week, but I'm pretty certain that we either take guns from our enemies or we make them into our guns. There's really no in between.
Yeah.
Tomcat writes in with 2 questions this week. I'm gonna tackle this first one. I have a lore question first. I haven't heard it mentioned, but what do you guys think about the chance that Ido turns out to be the daughter of either Aramis or Spider? Well, she's not Spider's daughter, unless some really weird shit went down and Mithrax and Spider are both severely, gaslighting her.
Yeah.
Aramis is a bit more intriguing, but I mean, you gotta remember, Aramis saw the Great Whirlwind. She's like 800 something. Oh, she's well over that. She's probably like 1500 years old at this point.
Yeah.
At least. Mithrax is a younger pup compared to that. Mithrax is probably a hearty 700 or 800 years old.
Yeah.
At least. I don't think Mithrax and Grandma Aramis were out here fucking.
Grandma Aramis.
Grandma Aramis and Tannix were fucking. We know that.
Yeah.
If she was Aramis's daughter, I feel like that would have been thrown out there in the parlay scene.
Yeah.
I'm not completely writing it off because, I mean, weirder things have happened, but to me that feels like such a Destiny 1 choice or like a Curse of Osiris level storytelling unforced error to make, that why would we have this whole story of how Mithrax decided to name his daughter after Sigurito, and that was because Sigur spared him. Yeah. Spared his life, and when he was in captivity, he learned, that's when he started turning away from being, the scalawag that he was, and turning towards the light, and like basically worshiping the Traveler afterwards, right? He, started to genuinely change and turn to the point where like he named his daughter after her.
Yeah.
Like I can't see any way she's not Mithrax's daughter, but if she happened to, because we don't know the mother, it could be Aramis, and that'd be a little weird. But I mean,
I think that's too easy of an out though. Like that, man, I don't know. There's a couple things that's happening in the story that I hope they don't go, and I hope this is one of them. Right? Like,
yeah, all will be revealed over the next week or two.
Yeah. So I just feel like there's a better answer, even if you have to introduce a new character.
I think there's a better solution here.
What if?
I'm not writing it off, but I would file this as highly, highly unlikely.
What if her mother is the Elixni disciple?
I would fucking hate that. I'd fucking hate it.
Just like a new character.
I'd be so mad. I don't see. I think that's like part of the gem of Destiny storytelling, though, is it's very similar to how the original Star Wars trilogy was. Like, it doesn't matter your bloodline or who you are; anybody can be a hero. And that's very much like the Guardian Creed in a lot of ways. Like, your past doesn't matter anymore once you're risen, and that's very much how Mithrax has tried to live his life, and it's come back to bite him in the ass. So very curious that we may have to put a pin in this and revisit this next week, but I don't think we're going to have to.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep this one floating around. Tomcat's other question is gameplay related. Gameplay question: do Charged with Light and Elemental Wells really make that much of a difference to focus much time and thought on them when choosing your mods? I'm going to answer this one and say yes. I find that running a support, I tell y'all I run a support build. I run a lot of Charged with Light mods. I'm constantly, whenever I cast my super, I'm running Radiant Light and I'm running Powerful Friends. So anytime that somebody casts their super or I cast mine, we're all getting charged. Everyone around me is getting charged. I'm running High Energy Fire. I'm running Div. I'm running Tether. I'm running things that help the team. So yes, I run a Charged with Light build. But I will note on Stasis, I take one of my High Energy Fires off, and that's typically when I slap on my Elemental Shards, because that counts every Stasis Crystal as an Elemental Well. I think Elemental Wells are better to focus on if you play a lot of like not solo content, but like you play. I would say like you play like Nightfalls a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of like grandmasters. You want to do a lot of dungeons, things like that. I think that's very good if you want to be focused on your abilities. That's when you focus on elemental wells. If you want to be, support or like mega DPS, I think you focus a lot more on charged with light. But there's not an either or. It doesn't have to be either way. You can mix and mingle. I think that now it's become more and more difficult though. And elemental wells
Mm-hmm.
just I think are really hard to understand. I think
Yeah.
they're hard to understand. It's very much the combat style mods are those things that are like, this is how you're gonna go from like, okay, you're pretty good to hey, you're really good. You're doing the optimal shit. Like we
Yeah.
talked earlier about how like, oh, the enhanced perks only give you 5 to 10% more. Think of this as like, okay, if you're not running an optimized loadout of focused around like with elemental wells sprinkled in, with charge with light mods sprinkled in, you're probably doing about like 65-70% of what you could be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get to that 90-95% by doing this, by using your combat style mods and using your artifact mods. I would say honestly, like, and I know this wasn't part of the question, I think the artifact mods are more important because that has you changing things up every single season. That has you constantly adapting to new things. This may
Mm-hmm.
be the first season where I'm not equipping those combat style mods as much because I just like where I'm at across the board.
Yeah.
If I'm running solar, if I'm running void, if I'm running arc, I like the build that I have. I change things up when I go to stasis, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm
I
like
don't
you.
know if that accurately answers your question, but that's my personal feeling.
Yeah. I'm like you. I run a lot of charge with light mods on my because I also
Mm-hmm.
run support, and it's
I
just
mean, for me, it makes sense when I'm sitting there running Divinity because I always cast my super to start off the encounters, then so I can throw the bubble up.
mm-hmm.
And especially now, if I'm going to be shooting off my tether, like why not kick it all off for everybody? Get everybody charged at once.
Right.
I'm going into some of these Oryx encounters, with 3-4 stacks already
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just running around getting charged constantly.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's get into the questions from the Discord now. We've got several of them here.
Discord, join it.
Chroma Architect, who me and him found out a few weeks ago that we actually live very close to one another because we were both making fun of the traffic in the same town.
Oh, that's cool.
That's hilarious. Now that the subclasses have been updated, we should look to getting back to stasis and add something all the light subclasses have, which is a second super. What stasis supers would you like to see for each subclass in addition to their current supers?
Something that's not punchy as a Titan.
So, okay, I thought about this, and it's like I feel like each class kind of has like identities around like what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
I would like for warlocks. I don't know how you would do it. I don't know how this would ever work. I would love like an ice storm super where like you cast something similar to like how chromatic fire shoots or something, like how that melee works.
Mm-hmm.
And like you shoot it out and it looks kind of underwhelming at first, but then like imagine that like this giant AoE attack happens and it's just like a hailstorm coming down.
You know what would be cool? Yeah, kind of like that, but like,
I want more mysticism.
you look at the warlock and like I'm looking at the arc the Emperor Palpatine whatever
Tickle
that's
fingers.
yeah.
Tickle
And
finger.
but like instead of electricity coming out of you, what if you just kind of like are aiming your hand somewhere and like all these ice rods just come flying out of the sky and landing on people?
That would be cool. Dude, what if those like ice javelins?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So if it was like the Titan ice javelin, but good.
Yeah. Like useful.
So that was going to be my idea for the Titan is what if the Titans finally get their spear super? What if you got a stasis spear that appeared kind of like the old Rasputin spears from Will of the Thousands?
Yeah.
What if that appeared in your hands? You chuck it at the like you can actually like you like straight up Olympic throw it.
Yeah.
And it does something similar to what the Hunter Arc Super does now, but it like it's doing the damage like there's a big it like creates a big like crit spot that you can keep shooting over and over again for that shatter damage. But like, what if it was like creeping around the boss too, or something, or like it's spread around the ground, and you were like, as you're shooting it, it's like boom, boom, boom. It's like a stasis earthquake
That'd be
almost happening.
awesome.
Like you're not punching things, but you're still punching
Yeah,
things.
that'd be awesome.
As for the hunters, I really struggled on this one because I think hunters are probably the hardest one to get an identity when it comes to ice.
Yeah.
Giving us the axes at the beginning was really, I think, genius, to the point where I feel like we would just get like Arcblade 2.0
Yeah.
here, or like reskin of like Spectral Blades. My answers for the hunter, it's kind of boring. It's hard because like, well, I don't want an ice arrow. I don't want to just like embed my axe into something. Like, I mean, running around with them, like giving me like super speed or something with them would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I could have the movement of Arc 3.0 with my ice axes would be kind of cool. Like maybe every step I take like leaves a path of ice in my wake. I don't
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I
know.
was more well versed in the other classes, especially Hunter, because like every time I think of Hunter, I just think of Golden Gun
Yeah.
and the tether, and it's just like, man, I wish and arc staff, I guess, but
I think with hunters it's also a little hard because like our super was so good right out of the gate and it's remained good.
yeah,
Like
and
it's not bad. It's viable in a lot of
it's
content.
just stale, right? I mean, I think that's the
I don't
problem.
even think it's stale. It's just I used it so much for like the whole first year it was out because there really wasn't anything else viable for hunters except for Golden Gun.
Yeah.
With the 3.0s though, it's funny, like I went from running stasis for everything to I've barely touched it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like since the end of the Witch Queen campaign, even not even the end of the Witch Queen campaign, like since like maybe like the third mission, I've barely touched it.
Mm-hmm.
I played with it the other day for some challenges I needed to do, and it actually was really hard for me to get back into the swing of it
Yeah.
because it requires a very specific play style. I think like more than a new super, I would want to see like a refinement to the melees also for each of the classes. I like the ninja stars for the hunters, but I'd like to see an aspect maybe where you get three of them, like you could buff the damage ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
But like you have to do like a big trade off. You can add that as an aspect, but you have to give up like 2 fragments or something to kind of balance, and you're not running amok with them as powerful as they were. With warlocks, I would love to see the warlocks be able to like conjure the staff and use it like fucking Gandalf, just like whack people with it.
Gandalf.
I think that could be really. I think that could be a really cool like temporary melee weapon or something similar to the ice javelins that the Titans get. I don't know what to give the Titans. You guys already have a throwing spear, so I gave y'all a cool super. That's what you're getting from me.
I mean, I would like a cool super. That's
um, Zhao, I hope I'm saying this. Zhao Ambrosia writes in question: if this hasn't been done before, if you could relive one moment in your Destiny history, what would it be? It would be, well, I mean, I did get to relive it recently. I got to take down Oryx again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean, that's
that's my answer.
That's
the
the answer, right? I mean,
that's the answer for me. Yeah.
yeah.
The only other answer I would maybe get, nope, nope. That's my.
I don't really have another answer, to be honest with you. I mean,
The
I
first
guess
and
like
last missions of the Red War are pretty close for me. I think infiltrating Gaul's ship was a really cool first mission. You're fighting through the tower in the courtyard,
yeah,
and you board the ship.
yeah,
Like the cutscenes that are sprinkled in were really cool. Like Amanda drops you off and stuff, and then escaping the city afterwards without your light. The music, the main theme that's introduced, the journey theme is incredible. But when you retake the city, storming through it, and there's like other guardians that are there with you, like other players are doing these,
yeah,
that was awesome.
yeah,
Except for when you get to the end, when you hit the darkness zone, and it's just you, because canonically it's just your guardian.
yeah,
And you're jumping across the rooftops, taking down the snipers, trying to get to Cade and Zavala in time, and you get there, Cade's arm has been blown off, Zavala and Ikora are both down,
yeah,
and you have to be the one to go through the portal. Like, that was all some really cool shit.
yeah. Yeah, that was cool. That first
Other than
mission,
Oryx, that's my pick.
yeah, that first mission too, like when you're fighting alongside Zavala too, like you're actually fighting
Hmm.
alongside the Vanguard Guardians is super cool. I mean, it's quaint now, but like at the time it was super cool. And watching Ikora throw that Nova bomb and taking out that ship too, that was cool. But yeah, I mean, King's Fall taking down Oryx is definitely still,
Yeah. I mean, him just appearing, and he appears so much cooler now than he did back then, too.
yeah. Well, it's not limited by Xbox 360 now, so you know.
That's true. That's true. Joasis writes in, how would you feel if they start to introduce encounters in Lightfall where you can only use a darkness subclass? Say the encounter is a pure darkness zone, like the boss of that encounter is a light suppressing device. I feel like they've been building to that because the light suppressing device was part of the storyline when Keitel was first being introduced
Yeah,
during the Fourth Horseman shenanigans.
yeah.
It was a thing with Gaul as well, like the thing
Hmm.
that he put on the Traveler, the cage, that was a light suppression
Hmm.
device. I feel like we're not done with that quite yet.
Yeah,
I actually think that if you gave that to the Tormentors, that could be like really unique. But I think I
especially
don't know
because
that.
especially because you know, Callus is like he probably has that technology because they used it, right? So
Yeah.
I mean that
Well, he didn't. No, he didn't use it. It was Gaul's faction used it, not Callus. Callus was in
right,
exile.
but
You
I
have to
mean like
remember.
but like I wonder like I
I
wonder
mean, I'm sure he
if that tech.
has access
That's what
to
I'm
it,
saying. I
but
wonder if that technology was available that the Red Legion just took from them to, you know what I mean? Like I just I wonder if they can make it smaller and more refined and somehow like you said the tormentors use that device to like really mess with players. That'd be cool. Maybe that's how they introduced Strand. I don't know.
yeah, I think if they did that, so the only way I could see that happening, just because of like how people have builds and stuff, like we just got done talking about builds, right? Like so many have builds built around like specific subclasses that I think it would have to be like if they did specific missions in the campaign, I
Mhm.
think that could be really cool. Or if there was like maybe one of the modifiers in like Nightfalls and Lightfall could be you can only use stasis or strand, but I feel like to do that you would have to introduce a third darkness subclass first.
Mhm.
That's just
Yeah.
my personal opinion. Don't take that as gospel. I don't see it happening in like patrol zones or in like randomly in missions. I think it would be like you have an entire mission where like, oh, the city is under siege, all you can do is use strand or stasis
Yeah.
to fight your way out. That would be kind of cool, and I do like see something like that happening.
Mhm.
But I think that very much may be more final shape or like seasonal storyline focused rather than like actually being in the campaign right as you get strand.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Um, Nerd writes in, which raid encounters will be the most broken by Strand, assuming we can use it everywhere? The
Oh my
Wall of
god.
Dicks, man.
Oh
The Wall
god,
of
yeah.
Dicks.
Yeah. Mm. Yep.
Other than Wall of Dicks, I would say it's going to be really funny to see it on that first platform you get to in VOG, where you do, oh god, what do you do? You do oracles, you do um,
Oh, like the shield.
Templar,
Yeah.
and you do there's one other encounter you do there, but you do do all three of those. People swinging around like Spider-Man on that little platform would be really funny to watch. um it would make gatekeepers significantly easier. Just
Mhm.
all of Vault of Glass would be hilarious, I think, to watch.
Yeah.
um
Even the jumping puzzle in
I would
in
say the one
Vault.
that would the actual serious answer would probably be either Caretaker or Exhibition in Vow of the Disciple, though. Especially in the big ass room where you have to juggle the three relics
Right.
in the
Yeah.
last two rooms. I think
Yeah.
that those would be absolutely broken by Strand.
Yeah. Well, will you be able to use Strand if you're carrying a relic?
Probably not, but that means, but you know, people can swing to where the relic is instead of having to wait for you to show up, or
That's
like they can
fair.
swing over
Yeah.
to support and things like that. Like we don't know if it's going to work. Like what if there's a mod that allows it to act like a grappling hook instead of just like swinging around? What if it lets me use it as like a built-in like hook shot from Legend of Zelda or something? Like I shoot it at the wall and I zip up there. That would be really cool.
It would all,
but, like only if I have that specific thing equipped.
Yeah, it would also make Prophecy easier. That last encounter when you get sucked in.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's what that was my first thought. Was Prophecy. But
let's see. Our next one. Tiger Jesus 64.
Yeah.
Which D1 exotic would you like to see get a spiritual successor? Mine would be Pocket Infinity.
Fabian Strategy.
I think this is a pretty difficult one because I feel like we've gotten so many already.
Yeah.
Or we've just flat out gotten the D1 exotics. Like the ones that haven't been brought over, I'll be honest, I'm not even like really thinking about.
Yeah.
Like I would say Red Death, but I mean Crimson exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
the Supercell exists as Risk Runner now.
Remember the class specific exotics?
Oh man!
And the
Titans because I've spent all this time complaining about how everybody else gets fucking Ace of Spades now.
Yeah, and then I Titans were stuck with Fabian Strategy, that awful shotgun.
Oh my god! Tylock was the only good one that the Warlocks had.
Yeah, the only
I mean that would be fucking broken nowadays, so you can't bring that.
Yeah. I mean, the one, just for nostalgia's sake, I would say Kvastov at some point. Like, I really like that gun, even though
I feel like Kvastov is coming in the final shape. I think that they're saving that for that.
What if that's like, what if that's like the
an Easter egg?
What if that's like the last encounter of the campaign, where like you're going and you're crawling and you're fighting the Witness or whatever is like truly, running this thing. And you're like crawling, and the only gun you find is this broken Kvastov, and you like, kind of use it to take him down.
You pick up, and like your ghost comes to you, and you like your ghost is like all beaten and battered, and you pull it apart.
Yeah,
like in Transformers the movie.
Yeah,
and you just your guardian just starts talking in Rodimus Prime's voice with Stan Bush playing in the background.
Oh, I wasn't going there, but. You did.
Man, I'm fucking going. I'm going there because we got the touch, baby.
We got the touch.
Serious answer. I know Universal Remote was a shoddy. I would love to see it. Just like I would just want the name.
Yeah,
I want it to be a linear. Universal Remote as a linear would be hilarious.
Yeah. What was that primary sniper rifle everybody used? The long kind of
No Land Beyond.
Yeah.
No Land Beyond.
God, dude. I don't want that weapon back, but I just remember that gun. Just everybody was just using it, and I was like, oh, come on, because it was a kinetic. It used primary ammo. Gross.
It uses primary ammo. Oh, man. All right.
Gross.
And our final question for the night comes to us from Ronnie.
Ronnie.
We got the Halo gear and weapons, Fortnite ornaments that look better than we hoped. Is there anything else that you would like to see in the game in that aspect? I know this was a topic of discussion a couple episodes back. I don't care what could or might happen. What would you two like to see? So, if we're setting aside my ethical concerns and my annoyance about using this game as a marketing tool,
yeah,
and I think one of the easiest answers is for me to say the Leviathan axe from God of War, which John is absolutely screaming right now that I brought that up, I'm sure, after I've spent the better part of a year telling him it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
That would be my most obvious one, I think, because I think that's probably one of the most iconic. Or like if there was some way to get the Blades of Chaos in, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
I think both of those would be truly unique.
I think they would have to.
exotics.
I think they would have to add more melee style weapons, though, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you would definitely have to add more melee weapons for sure, because right now it's just like it's swords. Where the fuck is my Iron Banner axe at? That
yeah,
better be the solar weapon that they're talking about, the solar exotic. It better be the fucking Saladin axe. I'm
yeah,
just saying. I'm
yes,
just saying that better be what it is.
yes. Bring it,
Um,
bring it.
I would say those. Um,
I think Horizon Zero Dawn armor would be cool, like designed after like the robot
yeah.
dinosaurs kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I know we have a lot of armor that kind of looks like that already, but I mean, if you're gonna do it,
So hear me out here. I know that they are a Microsoft thing, but I'd love to see like a Bethesda Legends pack
hmm
of armor. Give Titans the power armor from give Titan armor or the power armor. Give them the like the T60 or the T40 from Fallout. Give man
I think the Warlocks
the
would get the Skyrim armor, the Dragonborn.
yeah, I would give them like the Dragon Priest robes or something.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, you
those could
could.
be really cool.
I think you could pick something from every game to give each class, right? Like, I mean, like the
Right. I mean, I
The
guess if you were
Doomslayer would
like,
be an easy one.
I think like for hunters, I think the Doomslayer is pretty easy.
Um,
But I guess maybe not with like the
I
cloak.
would
Like
actually,
hunters,
I would
I
say
would
Dishonored.
go. I was gonna say that I would actually say probably Corvo's
Mm,
armor in Dishonored with his mask.
yeah,
That could be really cool. I mean, Emily has a really cool set in the second one. Hell, you could even like go Deathloop on it and give them. Oh my god. Okay,
oh, Deathloop would be
give
cool.
me Colt's fucking jacket.
Yeah.
I already have a bomber jacket. I need another one. I will buy every one of those armor pieces that you put in this Bungie. But yeah, Bethesda Legends pack would be pretty cool.
What about Ghostwire
Um,
Tokyo? I don't know really anything really a lot about that game
I don't know
except
enough about Ghostwire to comment on it honestly.
I just know there's a
And
cool mask
I
in
would
there.
want to see how Starfield shakes out too. God, how fucking salty would you be if you didn't play on PC or Xbox and there was fucking Starfield armor in a PlayStation game?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But I feel like Starfield armor would basically just be like the spacesuit from the opening of Destiny 1 when they're walking on Mars for
Probably.
the first time.
I
The Tychonaut.
I would
Remember the
actually
Tychonaut
say
helmet for
for
the Titans?
I would say for Hunter armor, something else that would look really cool would be Lucian LeChance's Dark Brotherhood armor
Yeah.
from Oblivion. That would
Yeah.
be really cool. I only say Lucian's because he's the most iconic Dark Brotherhood member. I think the armor and I think the Nightingale armor for the Thieves Guild actually looks the best from
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know if you could swing that. You would have to give like Titans would get like such shitty armor, but
Always do.
always do. Like Fallout would be a fun one. I mean, you could do like a Raider themed set for hunters. You could do power armor for Titans, and for warlocks. Mm, warlocks are like always the tricky ones, I think.
hmm
They get fucking Hancock's coat from or Nick Valentine's coat
I,
from
I would say Nick
Fallout 4, and we
Valentine.
call it a day.
Yeah.
We call it a day after that. You
Yeah.
guys have to be space detectives.
What if
Um,
the helmet was just like Nick Valentine's face with the hat on? That was just the arm,
that'd
the
be.
helmet.
What if that was a Festival of the Lost mask?
That'd be hilarious.
I think my final thing that I would like to see, and like this in a million years will never happen. I don't even want to contemplate the rights and how expensive it would be to do this, but we're not talking about practicality. We're talking about dreams. I would love to
Talk about
see.
dreams.
I'd love to see some anime packs. You guys know
I knew that was coming.
I really really like my anime. There are some awesome ones that you could do from My Hero. The Titans could absolutely get like an All Might armor set, although it doesn't work because they aren't like wearing armor, so it'd be a little weird. Like hunters, because like the speed and shit could have like something like similar to Deku, have like his black whip coming out of him. Warlocks could definitely have like like the Shigaraki or Kirigiri look going on. Those could be kind of cool. Again, nothing practical at all. It makes no sense in terms of the game, but those could be fun. Um, I don't know. Like I want to see like some wacky shit. If we're gonna do this, let's just do it, right? Like, give me some Demon Slayer themed stuff.
Just do the Fortnite thing. Just get
do the fort. Yeah, oh god, don't do the Fortnite. I don't want to see xenomorphs running around in my Destiny game.
You mean you don't want to play as Darth Vader? Would you switch to a warlock?
I don't want Darth Vader doing the gritty on me in Control. I already had to do that once in fucking Fortnite. I don't want it happening again.
Oh, all right, man.
Corey, that does it for questions. Let's do a quick lore corner. And
let's do it. Let's do.
We've been going for quite a while. Let's
lore corner.
Number 3, Chosen from Season of Plunder from Above All Else. This is where I think the book. Quick note before we start. I think this is where the book transitions from Mithrax's mother to actually being about Mithrax. My mother could not keep me swaddled to her chest forever. I was no longer a child and no longer in need of sheltering. I was my own person, and it was time that she understood that. I knew that she loved me, because she shared her ether with me, because she killed those who harmed me, because she wanted better for me than the life we had. But we are not always the arbiters of our own fate. I aspired to nothing short of her approval. She was our inspiration, our leader, our hope. Kell of our house and protector of the people. She who gave me a name that meant strength above all else. She named me Mithrax, and I was now strong enough to bear it. On the day I told her I was capable of raiding at her side, we sat together in the cargo hold of our ketch. There was not the pride in her eyes I had hoped for. She was transfixed by the medallion around my neck, an icon of the great machine, one I had taken from the corpse of a splicer, one I had earned through blood. She tore it from my neck and crushed it in her hand. This will not protect you, she shouted at me. This will only lead you to death. I had never feared my mother before, but I had never seen her look at me the way she did that day. She pushed me up against a wall with her upper arms and pressed the bent charm against my brow. No son of mine will beg for scraps in the shadow of the abandoner. But even as she threatened me, I felt her press something into one of my hands. A reliquary, one of the few she had forged from the treasures of the moon. She saw the recognition on my face and stepped back, releasing me. I could tell she wanted me to inspect it. I had never seen one of the reliquaries up close before, and the glass was clear. The oily fluid inside obscured everything embalmed within. Yet still I felt its presence worming behind my eyes, like roots of a great tree burrowing into soil. It whispered to me, not with words, but with promises, blooming behind my eyes and visions of glory. When I looked up to my mother, I asked her why we could not have both. Why we could not seek the power we had stolen from the moon and simultaneously earn the right to seek refuge beneath the great machine once more. You are brave and curious, my mother mused, but you do not yet understand the brutality of the world. Then she showed me. She drove a knife into my side, twisted it, and split my carapace apart. I did not give her the satisfaction of hearing me scream. Let this be your first lesson, she said to me. You are my crew now, and when the crew questions your leadership, you make an example of them. She drew the knife out of my side and handed it to me. Never forget that. I promised her I wouldn't. So Mithrax's mom is a real piece of shit.
Sounds like it.
She straight up gives him one of the pieces of Nezarec and then stabs him because Mithrax isn't like fully on board with this shit.
I mean, would you be?
Well, I mean,
not that I would want my mom to stab me, but
he's asking questions about the Traveler and whatnot, and she clearly doesn't want him asking those questions.
Right.
So kind of interesting. I'm interested to see how this lore book concludes. Presumably next week, we get the final page. It's only 4 pages long.
Yeah, but
they're long pages. So curious to see how this ends.
Is next week the last seasonal story beat? Supposedly?
I think there's gonna be an epilogue because spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, I guess stop listening. We're basically done anyways.
I know there's always like an epilogue like the last week of the season,
there is something that has been data mined in the game that is probably going to be given to us next week. That is another one of those donate materials things to rebuild the Elixni Quarter. Supposedly, it's been data mined. Spoiler alert. If you didn't want to hear it, turn it off now, but we'll find out in like 3 days if this is real or not. And that is where we're going to dump materials. The current working theory in some parts of the community is that this is a way to get our planetary mats out of our inventories because they're going to sunset them. but that it would be similar to like when we did when we rebuilt the lighthouse on Mercury, for example. It would be similar to that, and then when that's done, like that would take place leading into Festival of the Lost and throughout Festival of the Lost, and then after that is when we would get the final story beat towards the end of the season. I don't know if that's true or not. It does feel like it is. Like there is stuff coded into the game.
Yeah,
there's been data mined that talks about it. We'll see? ? The only reason I'm even bringing it up is because it has floated around a lot with people who don't normally post spoiler stuff.
Yeah,
and I have kind of known about it for like 3 or 4 weeks now. So we're talking about it now. The end. We'll know on Tuesday if it's real or not. If it's not, I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not in a rush to do something like that. But if it does, that probably gives credence to the idea that Mithrax is not going to truly die.
Yeah.
But we'll know next week what happens with him. Next week is when we'll acquire the final artifact. So we'll see if the final part of the story actually plays out next week, or if we've got to wait until November for it.
Nezarec. This guy.
This guy.
I hear he's bad.
I mean, he basically led the first collapse. There was some interesting dialogue this week. I know this isn't directly related to the lore corner we were just doing. There was some dialogue about Nezarec this week, and I think a lot of people misinterpreted it. They interpreted it as the cryptographers knew about the collapse and knew that Nezarec had been a disciple and withheld that information. What Ido actually says is she searched the cryptography and there was no records of it. The only records we have of the collapse or of Nezarec are secondhand accounts. So like basically whispers and legends, essentially.
Right.
That nobody, I mean, obviously nobody remembers it, and those are the Dark Ages. Nobody thought to write this shit down. I suspect that's probably part of the journey we're going to go on in Lightfall, or in the season leading up to Lightfall, is finding out what exactly happened in the first collapse.
Yeah. And
how to prevent it. We know Savathun was involved somehow, not to save us, but to save the Traveler. And so, okay, let's find out a little bit more about this. Let's get back to the Lucian Hive are back in the story. Let's get back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Josh.
Corey.
If there's nothing else, I say we get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
We provided everybody with a beefy episode today, so.
Very beefy episode. I got to go drink like a whole gallon of water now.
I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at Tower Casuals. Join our Discord. Super fun. Play with us. It's fun. The rating is so much fun. Josh, again, thank you for your time tonight, as always. I appreciate your knowledge and your musk. Where can we find you?
I hate you so much. Twitter at Josh_Finn.
You can find me at I am Corey NHG on Twitter and Instagram. Remember to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.